Firaxis and 2K have just released an update on the June patch for Civilization 7, and boy howdy is it a big one. I think this one might change everything. First off, it was really nice of them to release this update when I'm not at work. For those of you who don't follow the channel religiously, I live where I work, so I can only kind of record these videos on my days off when I'm at home, but thankfully today is June 10th, and that is when this is being released, which is awesome because I'm here at home and can record this video. Estimated read time is 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Let's get started. First, we have just a general update. This isn't, very interesting or anything, but it's just giving us some context. This update is shaping up to be our most content pack so far. We're bringing in several long-awaited features, yada yada. We're working hard to get things you want in the game. We'll talk about each of those things as we go, because in some respects, Civ 7 is a game I'm still really enjoying, and in some respects, it's still a little bit disappointing. So we'll see as we go through these notes how we start feeling. But basically, the thing we need to know here is that they're trying to be transparent about what's still in progress, what's going to be in this patch, what's coming in the future. But this patch update 1.2.2 is planned for June 17th, so it's a week from now on June 17th. The first update is large and huge maps, which is very, very exciting. They give some context down here about how they've been building into this. They have distant land starts in 1.2.1, and so in 1.2.2, you're kind of ready to bring it together and have a higher, player count on a larger map. And if we take a look at this map here in this little infographic they've kind of posted, it is really, really large, which is awesome. I do have some concerns about whether or not I would play on a large or a huge map in my routine games of Civ. In Civ 6, I kind of just played on a small map or the standard map kind of usually. With large and huge maps with the higher player count, you just get longer and longer games, and Civ 7 games are already long. It's harder to cheese a short game out of Civ 7 than it was in Civ 6, so I don't really know if this is something I'll be engaging in too much, but it's always great to have options. A lot of people have been wanting these large and huge maps, and it's a great addition. One of those ones that kind of just feels like it should have been in the game at the start, but hey, we can't change that now, but we're happy this is here for large and huge maps. I think what might be interesting for me from a content perspective is actually doing one of the things we did a lot in Civ 6 before kind of all of the new Frontier Pass came out. A lot of content creators played on a large map, but then knocked a couple of the players off to give you more space on deity, so each of the AI and you could have more cities. And I think that's a very interesting way to play these types of maps if you're a content creator, so we'll see if that's something I'm interested in. But if we take a look at the info down here, there's some warnings about hardware demands. If you're playing on these larger maps, there'll be higher hardware demands. That makes perfect sense. But we will have 10 civs in single player games. Huge can go up to 12, even if you only have 10 civs, in which case you will see some duplicates, which is awesome. In multiplayer games, you will still be able to play on the large and huge maps, but the player count will remain capped at 8 to maintain stability and performance. This is one of those things I'm happy that they're capping it at 8, and hopefully with mods, or there's some way if you want more than 10 or 12, if we're doing like the Civ Give or something, you're able to do that. But this all seems pretty practical for me. Great addition. Really happy this is in the patch. One of my favorite things in this patch are the new advanced game options. A lot of things you can kind of toggle on and off now, which is exciting. Let's talk about them. First, though, I want to say, because I know it's going to come out there and this is how I feel, I really enjoy Civ 7. I enjoy it more than most. I stand by my positive review. I was actually, before this patch, going to make a video entitled Civ 7 is good, actually, because I really think it is a good game. Its biggest issue is still so many things feel like they should have been there from the beginning, and they are just not, and that is really disappointing. And these advanced game options are one of them. When you come from Civ 6, where you just have so many game options in that game, to kind of revert back to a new base game where you don't have as many kind of creative options really sucks. I think this patch is going to go a long way to making each game feel really exciting for players, and so that's awesome. The first one is turning legacy paths on or off. Now, to me, this mirrors being able to turn different victory conditions on and off in Civ 6, which is awesome. You can now turn off legacy paths either per age, which is excellent, which is such a good change. It's not just for the whole game or not. Per age is awesome, or all of them at once, which is also excellent. With this change, you can now play a Civ 7 game without legacy mechanics to enjoy a full sandbox style game. It's, again, not something I'm sure I will do on stream too often, but it'll be great for a specific challenge. Like if we're trying to get, what is the highest food we can get in a city? What is the highest, production we can get in a city? It's great to be able to turn these off and kind of just play the sandbox style game if you want to play test some stuff which is awesome. If you want to focus on just one or more legacy paths, you can turn specific ones on or off. This is great. This option also includes the ability to turn off score victories. We definitely want feedback on how this one feels in particular. I think this is great. There's almost no chance this will feel bad. I think it's awesome to have these kinds of customizability options, and it just gives everybody more options for creating the game that they want to play, and I really, really like this edition. For the love of all that is good in the world, I keep saying this might be my favorite, the Crisis Picker. I've been turning crises off. I think as a mechanic, they are just simply underbaked. I would be shocked if religion and crises weren't like a big part of the first kind of gameplay expansion. It just feels like those are the two that are in there to kind of have the bones in the game, but they're going to be expanded upon in an expansion pack at some point. But for now, letting me disable the goddamn happiness crisis and keep the rest of them, I think is excellent. You know what I mean? Even so, I would turn crises on if I could just have the barbarian one. I think that one's really fun. I really enjoy that one. Turn off the happiness one, turn off the illness one, just give me the barbarian one. I think that'd be fun. This will single-handedly probably get me to enable crises in all of my games, which is great. Obviously, the default I would just be to have a bunch of crises that I think all feel interesting and are exciting, but since that's not the case right now, letting me pick and choose what I'd want is awesome. And even if they were all exciting, again, having choice is great. So we're really happy that this crisis picker is in there. I think that'll make the games a lot more fun to play. Custom AI difficulty. So this one might be the first one that feels quite new for Civ 7 in some capacity. One of my favorite things about Anno, which is a game that we're talking a lot about right now because Anno 117 is coming out, is that you can kind of just choose not your overall difficulty, but your difficulty on each individual level. So if you want smaller islands and smaller resources, but easier AI, you can choose that. If you want harder AI, but bigger islands, you can kind of customize how you want your game to go. So coming in here, less of a challenge from the AI, you'll have 6 standard difficulties, but now you can go in and tweak individual systems. So you can have a deity level combat AI with a, regular level economy AI or whatever it is. I think that's awesome. I think that's so exciting. This is something I'll definitely use. Crusader Kings is another game where I really like tweaking my characters a lot and tweaking the difficulty of the game at the beginning. This would be great. I think for a lot of content creators, we kind of still have to play on base deity. I think that's what the audience is tuning in for. But I can definitely see a world in which I'm customizing these for the specific game I want to play. So I have deity on most of them, but I have, knocked down or two on expansion. Like imagine Civ 6. Imagine Civ 6 where you could keep the deity AI in every respect, but you just knock down the amount of settlers they get by one. That would be incredible. That would be an incredible little balance thing to make it feel a little better. So I really, really like this. I hope they continue to do this. I want maximal tweaking of the AI as we go along here. This is an excellent addition. I think it's going to go under the radar, but I think this is going to make the game just so much more fun to play for those people who are putting in hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, who are making content. This is amazing, especially if you're just getting into the game as well. Being able to up your difficulty kind of one nodule at a time, I think would be excellent. So yeah, this is just an exceptional change. The next one is huge as well, bypassing Civ unlocks. As a content creator, I've enjoyed playing the game and kind of getting to the end of an age and seeing what I get, but especially when you're live streaming or you're trying to test something, I think I'll almost always play with this on now. When you toggle this on and you get to the age transition, you can just pick any Civ from the next age, and I think there's an issue with this in that it kind of even doubles down further on the game not being super linear in terms of the civs kind of making sense picked back to back. However, I really enjoyed this as a way to just, more freedom to experiment, more role play, all the things they're saying in there. I think for, games that are going on YouTube, it might still be fun to have to unlock the different civs. But if we really want to do a specific run, like someone asked, you want to do this civ, and that civ, you can just click this on and not have to worry about setting that up. I think this is something almost every person is going to keep on. I think this is incredible, and it just gives you that option. This is such a good freaking change for Axis. You're killing it, man. I'm telling you, this patch slaps, and I think this is a huge addition. I'm really excited about this. This one I personally care less about because I'm just not struggling with the independent powers, which is the same in Civ 6. I just simply did not struggle with the barbarians. You kind of get to a point where you understand the game enough to be able to kind of handle them, I think. However, for newer players to kind of your mid-level players putting in a couple hundred hours here or there, I say that as if that's not a long time, but you're playing, 10 or 12 games of Civ a year, right? The independent powers and barbarians in all these games really do kind of take the hit and take the joy out of that early game. And I think being able to tone down the hostility of independent powers is going to be great. I think toning it down will give, people a good chance to engage how they like to. You tone it down, you can kind of just walk past them and kind of ignore them if you want. If you want to engage in combat, that's always an option for you. And I think this is a great change to make the game, easier to get into for new players, which is something they've been really trying to do with Civ 7. So I think this is great. I don't think I would personally use this too much. I kind of like where the independent powers are. I've never had a game of Civ 7 where I've been like, oh man, these independent powers seem overly aggressive or anything like that. They seem to make sense to me, but this is a great little customizability option, especially for newer players, so we're happy this is here. Not to bury the lead, but for the love of Coupe and everything he represents, we are finally getting some goddamn Steam Workshop support. This is one of the things that was missing at launch that I fully actually supported for Access not including at launch. I don't know anything about game development, but I assume when you release a game to a wide audience, you want data and feedback and telemetry from your game relatively unmodded. You don't want to make it too easy to mod early on, because then a lot of people are going to mod it and it kind of screws with the data you're getting about your game. So I think it makes sense to kind of let the game go for a couple of months, see what kind of data you're collecting, see where the feedback is at. A couple of months gives you enough to trend the patterns in the data as well, and then you can introduce workshop support to make those mods easier. Obviously, I've been modding my game. A lot of people have been modding their game. It's not that hard to do, but Steam Workshop is how we all got our mods in Civ 6, and you kind of just click on it in Steam. It auto updates. They're always in there. So getting all of these mods on Steam Workshop is huge. This is a huge step up for all of our PC friends who are going to be playing. In Civ 6, we played with UI mods for, 5 years in a row, right? And so I never really played with gameplay mods too much, but being able to get those mods in the Steam Workshop, they're just there. They just auto-enable. It's really, really nice. And I think Steam Workshop support here is going to be huge for the modding community. It'll make it easier for those modders to kind of get those mods out to people. It'll increase the audience for the mods, which will encourage more modders to make more mods because more people will play them. And I just think this is a huge step in the right direction for getting Civ 7 modded. And look, a game like Civ, even if it was perfect, a game like Civ 6, a game which I think is really, really good, at the end of its life, I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's a great game. It's still so many good mods in there that made the game more interesting as you play it for your 20,000th hour or whatever it is. That's a lot. It's not 20,000, it's like 3,000. How many hours do I have in Civ 6? I should check that out. Yeah, I have about 3,000 hours in Civ 6. Which is a lot, you know what I mean? But I don't know where I got 20 from. Anyways, Steam Workshop support, we're happy about that. New town specializations and balance. Now, I'm mixed opinion on this. Mixed opinion on this because I think the specializations are great. However, there's a couple of ones that are just better than the other ones, and that's not inherently bad. You have that all the time with your pantheons. If you try and make everything equal, you just end up with a bunch of milquetoast lame shit. And so I'm glad that they're trying to make each one really diverse and have a specific use case, and that use case being good, but they're not trying to make them all good in every game. I think that's worth doing. However, my problem with Civ 7 has not been the town specializations, and so happy to have the balance, happy to have more specializations. Not exactly something I needed focused on, in my Civ 7 gameplay, but there's two new ones, which is really, really nice. We have Resort Town here, brand new town specialization for naturally beautiful areas. It gives happiness and gold bonuses, which is great, on tiles with high natural appeal. So this is great. We're bringing appeal back in a more meaningful way. We're going to get some more happiness and gold on some tiles. We're happy with that. And we got some natural wonder tile stuff going on too. So that'll be good for settling those natural wonders, but not quite making a city of them right away. So we're really happy with that. Urban Center's also really interesting. It's been reworked to better reflect its name and role. Gold and happiness towards building maintenance, huge. But we get a library, bath, and monument without needing to fully upgrade to a city. I really like this because those libraries early on in the game can really help with science. I still think Civ 7 has a science issue insofar as, unless you have a specific science building, like a unique building, or a way for your Civ to generate science, or you're using like Note G, one of the mementos that generate science, it's quite hard to generate science and keep up with the AI on higher difficulties. And so getting, libraries and towns will be a little bit of a way to making that work, which I think is really nice. Don't sleep on the bath as well. There's a lot of good towns with a lot of good bath tiles, and all of that food kind of going back into I guess at this point going back into a city because you'll have chosen a specialization is really, really great. So we're happy with this. And then we got some balancing to some of the other, town specializations. None of these instantly become like overpowered or anything. A couple are getting buffed here, and then we have a hub town which is being tuned down slightly. I've only used hub town a couple of times, and it has been really good the couple of times I used it, to be fair. But yeah, this is just all balancy stuff. We're happy with that. Another update I'm just so freaking happy about: city state bonuses, pantheons, and beliefs. 1.2.2, we are getting 24 new city state bonuses, 2 new pantheons, and 14 new religious beliefs. Thank God. City state bonuses are great. I actually think city state bonuses are one of the things the game does really, really well. However, we just simply need a few more of them. Like, I think this is just great to give us some diversity. It always does suck when you get to like your third culture city state and you've used it and you only have the one option. You know what I mean? Like, I just think this is great. 2 new pantheons is going to be good. I think the pantheon selection has been fine. I don't have too many strong opinions. It'll depend on what they put in here. But again, I think more choices is always good. Having 2 new pantheons gives us more flexibility as players, which is great. And these kinds of things can be science generating, right? So maybe I have 2 science generating pantheons, which would be really, really good. So just new ways to introduce, some balance to the game, some more options to the game is exceptional. And 14 new religious beliefs. I swear to God, this better be 14 beliefs involved around having the religion matter in your own cities. Because you have all of your beliefs, and it matters that you spread your religion to other cities, but it doesn't matter that you have them in your own cities that much. And so 14 beliefs, they better all be like, if your city follows your religion, you get X, whatever. I think that would be really, really great. Religion in general is still wonky as hell, and it's just lame, and I'm not going to pretend that this makes religion less lame. The whole missionary, click twice bullshit is just awful. It sucks. It is what it is. But this will make at least the things you're getting out of that dumb system a little bit better, hopefully. So, you know what? It's a positive change. Yeah, it says right here, creating more reasons to convert your cities, not just cities belonging to your neighbors. I'm hopeful. This can only be positive. It can't be negative. So net positive coming from the city state bonuses, pantheons, and beliefs. Some other items mentioned for June: specialist balance. I quite like the OP specialist meta we're in. I've only played 2 games on the new patch, but specialists have been pretty freaking good in both of them. 1.2.0, we got a food buff. Specialists were feeling a little overpowered, mostly because the maintenance costs could be offset via various policy cards, and that's true. By the time you get to the end of the modern age, you're paying like 0.6 food and 0.6 happiness per specialist. So I actually agree with this change. I think the policy card negating the specialist cost is a little overpowered. So this is a good change overall. I support this change. Treasure fleet improvements. This is another big one that's going under the radar a little bit here. Treasure fleets are growing legs. Treasure convoys, and you'll be able to use them over land and not just the sea. This is great for those distant land cities where you're kind of landlocked and can't get those resources to the ocean. So this is great. It really actually, I think, changes how you can play the exploration age. So I really, really love that. The scout dog is now petable. Cool. Bug fixes, UI polish, quality of life improvements. Just a lot of, we're already improving what's in the game. This is not going to be a big UI patch, I don't think. And I've just downloaded UI mods at this point, and I think they're going to do one big UI patch at some point. The UI is still broadly bad, but I think it's gone from capital T terrible when the game released to like capital B bad, right? So it's kind of, dredged its way out of terrible. We're now in the bad territory. It's more usable than it ever has been, but it just needs so much work still. But hey, those notes are coming later. We could keep going, but they want to leave some surprises for us, which is awesome. We have the full update notes as well, which is great. I promise we will be going over those when they come out. There's a lot of stuff coming beyond June. They're really fixated on this auto explore. Like, can people not just send their scouts out? I don't know why we need auto explore so bad. We got hot seat. We got lots of things coming later, which is fine. None of these things I particularly care about, but I appreciate that you might care about them. So if you want to read here what's coming beyond June, that's great. And the journey so far and what's ahead. They are tackling some big things in the feedback. And this is where I said, I thought that having months and months of feedback before introducing mod support might be a good idea. A couple of things they're focusing on. Age transitions can feel abrupt. I agree with that. Game replayability needs more depth. I can agree with that. I feel like I've kind of gotten over the age transitions feeling abrupt. Like, I feel like I got a better cadence now. I understand how the age progress works. I understand how it adds up. So I'm feeling this less and less, but I feel the game replayability a little bit. There are parts of the game that kind of just feel the same every time. However, I would say the same about Civ 6. I feel like 80% of every Civ 6 game was me doing the same, like Golden Age, Monumentality, Get the Faith. Like, I think I think replayability is a deeper issue than just do you have something different to do every time. I think replayability is just making each of the strategies feel engaging. So if you're doing the same strategy multiple times in multiple games, it still feels fun and exciting. So we'll see what they do here. There's room for improving the player's sense of empire identity and continuity through a multi-age campaign. This is the one, like I think these two I'm not feeling as much as the average player. This one I'm feeling more and more the more I play. I get to the modern age and I'm like, what was the initial thing we were doing here? Like, where did we start this whole thing? You know what I mean? And I think that this is something they definitely need to address to not keep me interested. I'm gonna play, a couple thousand hours of Civ 7 fairly soon, so I'm not worried about it. However, I think that this is good for the general community for them to address making your empire feel like it has a cohesive identity through all three ages, even if you're switching civs. I will say overall, though, hot take. I know a lot of people are bashing the ages and the civ switching. I stand by what I said in my review. I like both those systems. I think the ages are a great system for Civ 7. I think the civ switching is a great system for Civ 7. Do they need some work? Yes. Are they perfect? No. Do I think they'll get there? Yes. The other civs, they're there. Go play them. Civ 5, Civ 6, the ones without these, right? They are there and they're on a discount. They're like $10. You can go play them with all the DLC. Like, I like that they're doing something new. They didn't take away the other civs. It's not like they delisted them. If you want Civ 6 with the continuous empire, go play that. It's fine, right? I'm glad that they're kind of sticking with their guns on ages and Civ switching, and they are going to, try and make those feel better. We'll see what they end up doing. I'm also super pro having it would be interesting, I think, to see them do something in a big update maybe a year from now where you have like a continuous mode where you keep the same civ for the entire game, but at the end of each age you add a new ability to it. So you start with one ability, you get to the exploration age, and then you keep the same civ in terms of title and identity and everything, but then you just add a second ability that's more exploration based, and then you get to the modern age and you add a third ability, and they all kind of stack so you don't lose one. You're not losing the old ability and gaining a new one. You're kind of just building on your empire. I think that would be a great hybrid of having an age system while also and a transition system while also having the identity, bear fruit. And so it would mean going through each civ and adding all of those things, and it's a lot of work. But I think that would be the best solution to these kinds of things. There's a lot of things in here that I find are interesting. They're focusing on end of age countdowns for July, which was my suggested solution to this problem in the beta. It was interesting because when you do the review period and you have your feedback, one of the only because I'm not a game designer, so I very rarely give feedback with a solution, right? It's always like, here's how I'm feeling, here's what's happening, but it's kind of like up to the game designers to take that feedback and go, oh, here's how we'll design a solution. Or maybe, hey, VanBradley, shut up, we don't care about your problem, like we have other fish to fry. Or it's just a problem you're having, so that's kind of too bad. I specifically suggested an age countdown. I was like, this would feel a lot better with just the simple change of once you hit the age score, once you hit the score, you have a 3-turn countdown to know when the age ends, because that way you at least knew definitively on what turn. You couldn't possibly be surprised by the age ending because you hit the score. That was a surprise. You weren't expecting to get to 100 or whatever, but then it gives you a 3-turn countdown like they did with the era score in Civ 6, where it was kind of nebulous. You didn't know how long the era was going to be exactly because you could push it ahead or lag it back or whatever. But then once it hit 10, it was a definitive 10-turn countdown. And then I was told at the time that it was causing all kinds of problems, that they tried it, they didn't like it, etc., etc. So I'm interested to see them come back to age countdowns now, which seemed to me like the obvious solution at the time. But I was told that it was not going to work and that they tried it and whatever. So we'll see if this is different than what I thought of for whatever reason. But yeah, overall though, what a great patch. This is going to really bring some more life into the game. Anything you can do to make the game more customizable, more exciting, more engaging. This is the first patch where I'm leaving going, oh, this one is going to change this game in a really positive way, in a way that I can be really excited about, but also really lay the groundwork for some excellent mods, some excellent patches going forward. This is the first kind of set of patch notes that I've read that leaves me wildly confident that we're another couple patches away from having an excellent game on our hands, or at least a game that the average person is going to go on Steam and review as like mostly positive. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, this patch rocks. These patch notes rock. We haven't even got the notes yet. Like, this is only a taster of what's going to be in the patch. So I think this patch coming in June is going to be excellent. And that'll be it. Next patch, June 17th. I'll try and find some time to hop on stream. If not, I'll definitely play a game for the YouTubes. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure you're here when we play those games. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.